Theresa May gives in to pressure from Brexit supporters in her governing Conservative Party. The UK government said it'll accept all the changes hardliners proposed to May's customs bill at a parliamentary debate. One of the amendments could stop the UK from collecting tariffs for the EU after Brexit. Another can block the government's backstop plan that eyes a number of customs arrangements with Europe in case the current talks don't result in a permanent deal. It's not clear whether the changes will end May's hard-won proposal for Brexit. Even before May's agreement to changing the original plan, pro-EU lawmakers criticised it, saying the plan would push Britain too far from the bloc. Let's speak to Tony Gosling. He's an investigative journalist joining us via Skype from London. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Mr. Gosling. Now, this Theresa May giving into the pressure from Brexit supporters in her own party, one has to wonder who is driving the Brexit strategy. Then it's clearly not May.
No, it isn't. Her Chequers deal, which was much vaunted last weekend, died tonight. It really didn't last much more than a week because most of the important aspects of that have been voted out. Basically, Theresa May gambled that she could get this through the Conservative Party, and she's failed. She's trying to put a brave face on it, but let me tell you, there is potentially a vote of no confidence looming in her because she's making too many mistakes. I've noticed as well she's bringing the summer recess of Parliament forward a few days. And why is she doing that? To try and head off a challenge to her leadership. So things are looking a little bit shaky underneath Theresa May. The sands are shifting because she's not getting away with the things she's hoping to get away with. I mean, she was a Remainer before all this, and her husband is a major trader over in the United States, fund manager. And really, it's him that's wearing the trousers, I think, with those two, because he represents the international feudal financial oligarchy, which really rules the West. I mean, these people can control, using their money, most of our political parties, most of our media, and they're trying to expand all the time using various war methods, around the world. So that's the sort of influence that's on her. She wants to dilute the whole Brexit vote. She wants to see all sorts of compromises made. But the biggest problem there is, and this was in expressed in the Daily Telegraph, the Sunday Telegraph yesterday, that the soft Brexit that she wants, a kind of soft Brexit anyway, is playing into the hands of the extremist parties here in Britain. That is to say, the racist parties, people like that, because if the mainstream parties dilute the Brexit vote, people will start again to vote for these more extremist parties. So it's quite important that the Conservatives stick to their guns. There's been a few stragglers, most of them pretty irrelevant politically and not very articulate, although we see and hear a lot of them on the mainstream media here.
But Mr. Gosling, herein lies the problem, though, doesn't it, where you have the Prime Minister who has a very different vision of what the Brexit deal should look like compared to her people from within her own party. We've seen David Davis leave already. It sort of makes Britain's position a bit of a joke when it comes to these negotiations.
Well, look, her job seems to be mainly to try and chip away at Brexit. In other words, to try and do deals with Brussels to make important. I mean, there's something called the European Free Trade Area, which seems to me to be the obvious route that Britain should be taking. That kind of deal, the sort of deal that Norway's got, Switzerland's got, Iceland's got, which enables trade and successful mutual trade, but it means that Brussels is not politically interfering and that the European Court of Justice is not making your decisions in the courts for you. So that's what we effectively want, and it's what many, many countries in Europe want. It's actually what the Greek people want, the Spanish people, many of the German people, the Italian people, but none of them have been given this vote. Thank God Britain was given the vote, and we've actually voted that we don't want to have this United States of Europe. We don't want this increasing union. But let me tell your viewers, Brexit may well trigger the euro-dollar crash that's been building for years because of the bubble being built up after 2008 by quantitative easing. I think that bubble is going to burst at some point, but it may be that Brexit triggers it. And then, of course, all the super rich will make even more money by buying up loads of assets very, very cheaply. This is the tactic that ruthless rich people use here in the West in order to make vast amounts of money and in order to impoverish millions of people. And I think that one of the possible outcomes of Brexit is that may well trigger, like I say, a euro-dollar crash. But
All
that's
right.
not necessarily a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing because that crash is going to come eventually anyway.
All right, on that note of caution, we're going to have to leave it there for now. That's Tony Gosling, investigative journalist, joining us via Skype from London. Mr. Gosling, it's always a pleasure having you with us here on Press TV.